Hello, my friends. This is Wendy with STAMPIN. I am so excited that you're here with me today. We are using the By My Side stamp set, and we are going to be making a one-layer scene card. I thought I might use these, but I ended up deciding not to. So you're going to see how this whole card comes together. We're starting off with doing our stamping. This is a piece of basic white thick cardstock, and I have my little girl image here, which, by the way, I feel like kind of looks like I looked when I was a little girl. Always an animal around and big glasses, and yeah, so that's straight hair. So I'm actually going to color her in my likeness. And then I wanted to use the little doggy in this stamp set, but he is attached to the little boy. So I thought I would show you how to do that fun technique, and then we're going to do some masking. One of the reasons I'm sharing how to make a card like this is because it's a lot of fun to create and build your own scenes using different stamp sets, first of all. Second of all, this kind of card is my true deep down love language. Like, this kind of card is the kind of card I would make all of the time, forever and ever. But truthfully, like, people just lose interest, I think, because, well, let me rephrase that. Because I don't make these very often, I am not incredibly skilled at making a scene card. If I did this more often, I would be better at it. Does that make sense? So the other piece of that is I also really love fun fold cards, but aside from a fun fold, this is my very favorite. So I'm using masking paper that I got, that's a Stampin' Up! Masking paper. I'm placing it just right over the top of where I've already stamped. And I'm going to stamp the doggy, and then I'm going to stamp the little girl, and we're going to cut out masks for this card. When you are stamping a scene card, anytime you want an image to appear in the forefront, so closest to the front, those are the items you need to stamp first, and then you have to mask them. So if we had a bunch of different stamps here and I was layering, I would want to stamp whatever I wanted in the very front or to appear in the front first, then I would have to mask it, and then I would have to stamp over it. So here I'm going to fussy cut out all of the images, her and the little puppy dog. And of course I had to have a puppy dog in this, as you know. Now I'm leaving in me fussy cutting this out because we have not had a really good story time video in quite a while. So I actually did cut out part of this fussy cutting because it was just too much. But yeah, I left a lot of this in. My ink blending, I didn't speed it up or anything because I wanted us to have plenty of time to chat. So here I'm just trying to figure out how I want to make my scene. Now I could have used those dies to create a little hill. The reason I chose not to use the dies is because I wanted to show you, if you're on a budget, a great way that you can, make cards with just the ink, stamps, and paper that you have. So this really only uses markers, ink, paper, and masking paper, and of course a stamp set. So you could get as elaborate or as simple as you want. Here I'm going to go ahead and mask the girl, and I'm going to mask the little dog. I do love Stampin' Up's masking paper because it's small. It comes in small sheets instead of like big 8.5 by 11 sheets, and I find that I waste less of it this way. I'm not sure why, but I just do. So what you saw me cut out was the little hill design for the bottom of this card, because I want these characters to look like they are standing on a hillside with a beautiful blue sky background. Let's talk a little bit more here in just a minute about why we're doing a card like this and not a Christmas card. Okay, so I hand cut that mask for the hill, and we're just going to lay that right over the top of the masks we've just put in place. Why are we laying it over the masks Why did we even lay the masks down? Well, because we're going to do ink blending. So remember, we want the dog and the girl to appear that they're standing on the hill. So in order to do that, you have to mask them so that when you do the ink blending, it appears as though it's behind them. Okay. So here we're just masking, and I just cut kind of a squiggly hill line. I didn't get super fancy. And then I'm bringing in my grid paper from Stampin' Up to do my ink blending on top of. You could just ink blend right on your mat and wipe it up with a baby wipe. I just don't prefer that. If I can keep my mat clean, I do. We're going to use Granny Apple Green and Garden Green ink, and we're going to just get busy doing some ink blending here. Now, while we're doing this, I want to share first our first part of story time. So, my disclaimer, as always, I always give this disclaimer. If you are new here, Saturdays is story time. I am recording this Saturday morning. Usually my videos go up at 5 a.m. on Saturday morning. It's late today because I ran a bunch of errands yesterday, and when I got home, I just wasn't feeling well. I was just really feeling run down. And to be totally honest, I had the thing that happens to the women. You know what I'm saying? So I was just tired. I was beat. I was tired. I wasn't sick. I just didn't feel good. And I was just laid around. So I watched Christmas movies and vegged out and didn't get my video voiceovered. So there's that. Okay. So, yeah, if you're new, welcome. We do story time on Saturdays. If that's not your jam, I get comments like too much chatting, too much talking. I am not the YouTuber for you then. Move along, little doggy. Like, no problems here. It's okay. We don't always have to verbalize everything we think. Just saying. So, the people who are here are my friends. They love story time. And if I don't do story time, they get, disgruntled. They're disgruntled friends. And I don't like that. So here I had this extra piece of mask, and I thought I would just ink blend a little hill kind of here. I really didn't like how it turned out, to be totally honest with you. It's okay. It didn't mess the card up, but it wasn't my favorite. So anyway, you can add different dimensions to your hillside and stuff like that by doing this. See, I should have done it the other way. So I should have made this part on the bottom darker and the top part lighter, and then it would have made more sense. But whatever, it is what it is. I did it and it's done, and there's really no going back. I could probably cover it up if I was really fancy, but I just chose not to be. Really quick before we get too far into story time, I just wanted to share, this is a mini ink blender. Yes, your eyes do not deceive you. It is tiny. These are the new blending tools that are coming out in the new catalog in January. So if you're a demonstrator, you probably already have a set, but if you are a customer, you won't be able to order these till January 5th. Also, in some things, I've kept saying that the catalog is launching January 4th. It is not. It is launching January 5th. Details, people. Details. Okay, so I'm going in with Garden Green just to kind of darken this grass up around the edges and just give it a little bit more dimension. I just thought it would be pretty to have a couple of different colors on there. I didn't go super crazy with this, but I really like how this turned out. We're going to then remove the mask, and I think I masked the sky at this point. So we'll see what I do. I think that's what I did. So very, very, very carefully, I'm removing this mask because I don't want it to pull up my doggy and my little girl mask. Those need to stay in place because we still have to do the sky. Okay, so yeah, you've had the disclaimer. If story time's not your thing, you don't have to hang out. We understand. Or mute it and put on some music. Let's get into story time. We'll hop back and forth between that and the card. First, let's talk about why we're doing this card in particular and not a Christmas card, since we're in December and everybody and their brother is doing Christmas cards. The reason we're not doing a Christmas card is because I just didn't feel like it. If I'm being totally, totally honest, which I always am with you guys, I'm kind of getting Christmas out. Like not for like the in-person portion, but I guess like doing Christmas cards, I'm getting tired of it. Um, so I needed something else. The other thing is, I've shared this with many, many of you in the past. I get the winter blues. Now, there is actually a diagnosis for this called seasonal affective disorder, which is funny because the acronym is SAD. um, and so I do have winter blues. I don't know that I would be full blown seasonal disorder, um, because mine kind of comes and goes. Really, the only thing I look forward to in the winter is Christmas, and I want like 1 or 2 days of rain and like a good thunderstorm, and then I'm over it. So I don't like being cold. I don't like it being muddy because then my dogs are tracking mud and junk in the house, in and out of the house. I don't really care for rain or wind or anything inclement. I don't like having to bundle up in clothes to go out of my house. I don't like my feet being cold, and I don't like the feeling of the cold floor on my feet. So basically, I always have on socks or slippers or something on my feet. So, yeah, I've never been a cold weather person. I just haven't. And I know that's actually like not popular. More people prefer cold, stormy, like wintry weather. I'm kind of an oddity in that I prefer summer. Now, don't get me wrong, I live in Northern California, so it can get into the hundreds here in Northern California in the summer. Real quick, back to the card. I'm ink blending in Balmy Blue and Pacific Point, just so you know. No, I don't like 100+ degree weather. Nobody likes that, okay? I'm not that person. I'm not a crazy person. But I do like the 90s. Not gonna lie to you. I like me a good 90-something degree day where I can get up in the morning in a tank top and shorts and not have to put shoes on. I'm a country girl, so, I I like being able to go out to my chicken coop and open the gate for them and not be cold. I like it when I can collect my eggs from my chicken coop and there's no poop on them or mud from their feet or their heinies. I yeah, I really okay. And so today, like my daughter's horseback riding lesson was canceled. The parade of lights that was supposed to happen tonight was canceled. So she's not going to be in that. So that's the other thing I don't like about winter. All the canceling. I don't like it. Crazy weather equals canceling the things. Anyway, I digress. I'll get off my rant and just say that's why I needed to make this card. In my head, making this card made me feel like I was in springtime and summertime, and I needed a break from making Christmas cards, and I needed a break from making fun fold cards. Something that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that do YouTube videos, and not just for card making, I mean just YouTube in general, is it is wearing. There is a point where it's like, okay, everything's been done. What else am I going to show? What am I going to share? And you guys, all of you, my friends, are so gracious and wonderful because you're always like uplifting and just, oh, we love whatever you do, type thing. The ones of you that are my true friends. And I get that. And I feel it. I feel that that's a true statement. However, that being said, there are just times where it just feels bleh. That's the best way I can put it. Now, some of that bleh feeling probably has to do with the winter blues, right? Like when you have the overall feeling, like today. Let's just talk about today. I got up this morning and the wind is blowing between, like, I would say 15 and 25 miles an hour. It's supposed to do that all day. It's raining. It's gross outside. And literally all I could think is, I just want to stay in bed. I don't want to get up. I don't want to do anything. I really didn't want to come into my office because my office is detached from my house. I knew it would be cold in my office where I'm recording this. And I didn't want to be extra cold. I just, it's all the things. It just is what it is. So, all of that being said, what I do to help combat this, I don't know if this will help any of you, but what I do to help combat the winter blues is, first of all, I make sure I take my vitamins. So I take vitamin D, I take magnesium, I take vitamin C, I take vitamin B. It's called Super B. I get it from Young Living, so it's got like a B complex type situation happening. I take turmeric, which is actually just more for inflammation in the body because, I have spinal issues. So I do that. I try to exercise. That one's rough because, again, it's cold. I'm miserable. I don't want to do anything. So that one's a fight. But I always feel better if I do it. I try to do things that make me happy and feel good. So I decorate for Christmas as soon as it's appropriate, and I bake. I do other things that I love and enjoy. And so that kind of helps balance things out. But when you do feel the blues, it's tough to create. It's tough to come up with something new. So those are all the things I do. I don't know if that will help you at all, but I do indulge myself in relaxing. And then like this, I did something I really wanted to do with this card. Instead of like forcing myself to do something that I thought would appeal to the masses, I did something that would appeal to me and that was fun for me to do. Really quick, back to the card. I'm coloring her hair in Daffodil Delight. I colored her face in a light to medium tone marker, and her dress is Poppy Parade, and I put a little bit of smoky slate under their feet to ground them and give them a shadow. And then there's a little wedge near her eyeglasses that is stark white, and I'm going to fix that with a Stampin' Blend marker. And I'm going to color the puppy with Cajun Craze and the bird with Night of Navy. Okay. So, so that's kind of like what's going on. That's why this video was up later today. No tech issues, no nothing. I just wasn't feeling it last night. I couldn't come to the office last night. So, this morning after I got up and got going, I have gotten my sheets in the washer. I always, do our bedding, and every weekend I'll clean it, wash it. And then I also have a baked oatmeal in the, what do you call that? Oven. Words are escaping me. And so that's what's going on. Now, let's talk story time. Another story. Okay, that was just kind of like an update, what's happening in life in general. But story time is hysterical, you guys. It's a quick, easy story, but I just have to tell you this. So I was making sweet potatoes for, we had like a Christmas tree decorating thing. I think I told you guys about that up at my in-laws. I made sweet potatoes. They were in the oven actually the last time we talked, I think, last time I did story time. And anyway, when I got them out, I tipped the pan and spilled a little bit of the like brown sugar stuff that was in the bottom, the syrup. So I had to move my entire oven to clean underneath it. Well, in doing so, I pull the oven out and I am absolutely horrified. I kind of like jumped because the plug to the oven, there's like a cord. It's like upside down and the cord is coming up over the top. In fact, I have a photo. Just let me pop the photo in right here. Okay, so there it is. So gross. I had to do it quick because it's disgusting. Basically, I find an entire piece of bacon over the top of the cord. Real quick, back to the card. So this is where I'm going to color in her eye. First, I start trying to ink blend it, and I'm like, this isn't going to work. I'm going to get her skin all blue. So I just grab my balmy blue marker and my light one and color that area in right there, and it matched perfectly to my background. Amazing. So anyway, super gross about the bacon. It like kind of startled me because I was like, is that, what is that? Like, you know how you catch something out of the corner of your eye? And at first I was like, is that some sort of like maggot, bug, gross thing? And then my eyes focus and I realize, my lord, it's a piece of bacon. A full cooked piece of bacon is laying over the top of you can't even make this stuff up, laying over the top of the cord behind the stove. So I pull the stove all the way out. I discard the piece of bacon. I clean under the stove, which was also gross, by the way. If you haven't cleaned under your stove in a while, I'm just telling you, it's probably nasty under there. Ugh. Anyways, so I took care of that. Well, maybe it's not. I have 4 dogs and humans that are messy. So I don't know. Maybe your stove is clean. So I took care of that and managed to salvage my sweet potatoes and moved on with my life. Now, this is where it gets really funny. My daughter gets home from wherever she was. I don't know if she was at school or whatever. I can't remember what we were doing. But I say to her, you're not going to believe what happened today. And so I tell her the whole story I just told you. Pulled it out, the bacon, blah, blah, blah. She starts laughing. I'm like, what? She's like, that was me. I said, what do you mean that was you? She goes, I dropped the bacon. And I'm like, what? She goes, yeah, a long time ago. Dad sets the bacon sometimes on the edge of the stove, and I went to pick up a piece of bacon, and when I did, it flopped another piece of bacon off behind the stove, and I just didn't say anything to anybody. I was like, really? And why? Well, I don't know. I just didn't want to get in trouble, and I didn't want you to have to clean it. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, maybe in the future, let me know if you drop an entire piece of bacon behind the stove, because that's gross. Here, I have a lot of trouble with this sentiment. Okay, I'm trying to get it close enough to the one at the top without going over it, and I just couldn't seem to get it up far enough. Yeah, so anyway, I struggled with that a little bit, but then I finally was like, okay, I think this is gonna work. So I test it. I really like testing out my sentiments on scrap paper before I commit them to a card, particularly when I'm making a 1-layer card. You can't go back, right? Like if you stamp and it really screws it up, then you have to find a way to fix it. So I would rather screw it up on this grid paper a whole bunch of times than screw it up on my card. And there I finally got it. I also double stamped this because I wanted these to be like a bold, nice, solid black sentiment, since that was going to be what was on the card. I really didn't want it to like look faded, I guess would be the word. I'm not sure what the word is. Anyway, now we're going to cut this down. So I decided to cut 1/8 of an inch off every side of this to make it 4 by 5 1/4. And then it's just going to go on the front of a 4 1/4 by 11 inch folded card. I kind of wish I wouldn't have cut it down, if I'm being totally honest. After I cut it down, I was like, I kind of wish I wouldn't have done that. The other thing I kind of wish is that I would have drawn a tree in to this scene or found one to stamp. It just, I don't know, it felt a little bit empty to me on that left side where the sentiment is. I mean, all in all, it's weighted well. The composition is nice, but I just felt like it could have used a little more something on that left side. But I'm fine with it. Ultimately, I just wanted to make a fun 1-layer scene card, and this one turned out great. And I also wanted to be able to have story time with you, which we accomplished, and you heard about my gross bacon and the winter blues, which, by the way, I think that I tell you about every single winter. If you've been around here long enough, you're like, same old story, Wendy. We don't want to hear it anymore. And just as a side note, I'm totally fine. Like, it's just one of those things where when it gets really gloomy, icky weather, I get a little down. and it passes and it's fine. I know there's people who literally like can barely function through winter and have to take medication and stuff like that. And I have to say that for me, I really think it's the Lord that keeps me from having to get to that point, because I spend a lot of time in prayer and I spend a lot of time like watching videos to uplift me and stuff like that. All right. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Shop at shoploveandstampin.com. I will get back with you again soon. Bye-bye.